Hi guys, so I had a baby. I was like, it's been a really hectic, actually past couple weeks, but mostly the past week, and these past 2 days have been insanely hectic. And so although I wanted to do like a really proper birth vlog, so much was happening so quickly that we couldn't vlog most of it. I do have a few clips I'm gonna throw in here and there that we actually like thought, oh hey, we should film this, but for the most part it was just too hectic to even think about having a camera, especially let alone like wanting to film it because it's been so emotional. Basically what happened was March 14th 2017, the day my son was born. I woke up, and when Kelly's alarm went off at 5:45, he usually leaves for work at like 6:15, 6:30. His alarm went off and I had to pee, because that's what you do, and I got up to go pee and I was shaking, like I was so cold. And I don't know if this actually has anything to do with it, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I don't know if anyone else has felt this way. But I woke up and I was so cold. I got back into bed and I was shaking, and he's like, is it cold? And I was like, yeah, you have to turn up the heat, like it's obviously freezing in here. And so Kelly went to the bathroom and came back, and he's like, I turned up the heat, but it's really not that cold. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I just figured he didn't know what he was talking about. So we went into the living room. I got 2 blankets on top of me and I was still pretty shaky. And my mom was like, it's not cold at all. Like, in fact, I was sweating all night. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I didn't feel well. Like, I just felt out of it. I don't even know how to explain it. I wasn't in pain, but I just didn't feel great. And enough that Kelly was like, I'm not gonna go to work until like you start feeling better. And Jackson wasn't moving very much either. So we actually decided that we were gonna wait about an hour more and do all the things they tell you to make your baby move that they had just told me on Thursday to make my baby move. And if it didn't work, then we'd go into the hospital and get monitored again. So I had a popsicle because he really likes popsicles, and then I went and I took just a hot bath because again, I didn't feel well. It didn't feel like contractions, but I kind of thought they were gas pains a little bit, so I decided to go and take a bath. And while I was in the bath, they got way worse. Like, I was just in so much pain. And finally Kelly came in and I was not happy. I was like, where the hell have you been? Because I'd only been in there for probably 5 minutes, but I was in so much pain that I couldn't believe he hadn't come in yet. So I was just screaming at him. I was in so much pain. And so he's like, well, what's the matter? And I was like, it's probably just gas pains. And I know this is like gross detail, but I was like, I probably just have to poop. And so I sat on the toilet and I was like screaming. I hurt so badly. So finally, like, I just kind of gave up on the idea of trying to poop because it just wasn't gonna happen, but I was in so much pain. And my mom came in and she had told me, if you want to know if it's a contraction for sure or a gas pain, because I've had such bad gas pains, to feel your stomach, and if it gets hard, then it's a contraction. And so I was leaning up against the wall in the bathroom, and she came in and she put her hands on my stomach, and I started screaming, and she's like, no, you're having a contraction. And I was like, okay. And I was just not really listening to her, whatever. And they kept happening, and I was just screaming freaking bloody murder. Like, I was in so much pain. And I thought, first of all, I'm such a freaking baby, I can't handle this. But my mom kept saying, you're having a baby today. And I was like, no, it's probably just gas pains, no. And I was just losing it. So she kept telling me, you know, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, blah, blah, blah. But eventually I was just in too much pain. So I was like, well, if I'm having this freaking baby today, then someone needs to call the freaking hospital and ask when they're gonna admit me. Because they were pretty close together, but they weren't they were like 2 minutes apart, but they were only lasting for like 30 seconds, but they were really intense 30 seconds. And so Kelly just called the hospital and said, like, she's, you know, we're pretty sure she's in labor. She's having these contractions. They're not really long yet, but they're pretty close together. And she said, well, if she wants us, is she in a lot of pain? And Kelly was like, yeah. And so she said, well, if you want us to do anything about it, like get an epidural, then you should bring her in now. So I was like, okay, let's go. I didn't put any underwear on or anything. I just threw any clothes I had on, and I left. And we drove through a red light, actually. This light took forever, but we needed to get there, and we made sure, but I was in so much pain. I was trying really hard not to scream. I worked really hard on my breathing. We got to the hospital at, I think, 8:30, and they checked me right away, which hurt, and I was at a 4. And so I was like, okay, and I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain, and I was begging for this epidural. I was in so much pain, and I felt like such a baby. Like, I was like, people go through this for, you know, 20, 30 hours sometimes without an epidural, but there's no way I can handle this. Eventually they came in, they gave me my IV, which is still like intact. They gave me my IV, and they gave me some pain medication just to calm me down. That worked for like 5 minutes, and then finally the anesthesiologist came in to give me the epidural, and then decided to check me after because I was in too much pain for her to check me before, and I was at a 7. So in an hour and a half, I went from a 4 to a 7, which explains why I was in so much pain. And then I didn't feel like I was such a baby anymore, because clearly they were painful contractions.
So Lauren is in the hospital now. This is her husband. So we are here now. See, nice hospital room. There's Lauren. I don't think she wants to be in this part, but that's okay. She's kind of tired. She is progressing ridiculously fast, and I think she started having labor pains at like 6:30 or 7, and then now we're here. So she's at 7.5, almost 8, and it is 10:45. I can tell time. So yeah, we're just waiting on little Jackson to come. So we'll keep you updated.
So after I got my epidural, things were a lot better. Things calmed down for a while. The doctor came in to feel his position, and he was facing, I guess, sunny side up, or I can't really remember. He was facing upwards, and that's not ideal for birth. And so they kept trying to switch him. They did all these different things. They kind of went in there. They put a peanut ball in between my legs. They gave me a couple of things. So they just came and checked me. I'm at a 9, and he's at +1 station, but he's turned the wrong way. And they had this thing inside where they checked the contractions, but I guess it broke because it was showing that they were so low. So they put a new one in, and now you can see them better. So now I have this little peanut ball in between my legs because they think that will help turn him. But they seem pretty hopeful that we can do a vaginal birth instead of a C-section, I think. Do you think they sound hopeful? So hopefully he turns. They just really don't want to do a C-section because I've progressed so well that it would just really suck if we had to do a C-section after all this work. But I'm at a 9, so we'll see.
So Lauren has the shakes like crazy. I put a little thing on her head. She's shaking, I don't know if you can tell, but she's really shaking pretty bad. Doctor said it was hormones, so we'll see if the baby comes soon.
But he wasn't really turning, and so they just decided at around, that was at 10 o'clock that they checked me and started doing stuff. At around 1:15 they just said, well, we're just going to try and get you to push, and then hopefully you'll push him into position. And so I started pushing at like 1:15, and I kept pushing, and I kept pushing, and you know, he was coming down, and it was just so rough, but he wasn't turning.
Those knees, yes. 4, go, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One more big breath, right back into it. Thumb up in the air. 2, yes. 3, 4, 5, yes. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, big breath. 1,
That's it. That's
2,
it. Good job, Lauren.
3,
Oh,
4,
good.
5,
Yes,
yes,
there.
7, 8,
Yes.
9, 1.
You're really starting to get him under your pubic bone. Yeah.
They said if we can't get him to turn, we don't want to do a C-section, our other options are forceps and something else. And they decided to go with forceps because it was more damage to me, more potential damage to me, and less potential damage to the baby. And the other option was more damage to the baby and less to me. And I was like, don't worry about me, take care of him. So they decided to go with forceps. And so after I pushed for about an hour, she just said, it doesn't look like he's doing what he needs to. We'll just go and do the forceps. And then we had to stop. They said they wouldn't let us, because it's technically a procedure, they wouldn't let us film the procedure. So we filmed a little bit of me pushing, but we didn't actually film him getting him out. But yeah, so I pushed him out quite a bit. His head was basically out, and then they took the forceps and they pulled him out. And see, I'm gonna get all emotional talking about it, but they pulled him out and they took him over to kind of clean him off. And he was having like really rhythmic breathing, which they didn't seem worried about at the time, but things started to kind of get worse. And I remember just sitting there and staring at them, like messing with him, and I was just really frustrated that I hadn't held him yet, or I hadn't whatever. And so I guess the NICU nurse or whatever came over to me and kind of explained something to me. I wasn't paying attention. I was too out of it. I just kept saying I want to hold him. And she just said, we're going to bring him over so you can hold him, but then we have to take him away. And I was like, okay. So they brought him over to me so I could hold him. I held him for like maybe 2 minutes, and I was just bawling. I was such a mess. I mean, I was exhausted. I was in pain, kind of. I was meeting my son for the first time, and then they were telling me they had to take him away, and then they did. And everything after that was just kind of, nonsense. I didn't pay attention to anything after that. I didn't care. They came in and told me that he had gotten an infection, because apparently right before they pulled him out, I spiked this crazy fever which caused an infection in him. And I'll explain more about what happened later, but basically they were going to have to keep him. And she came and she said, we're going to have to keep him, this is not an overnight thing. He won't be just better tomorrow. And we were like, okay. And I didn't like that, but what are you going to do? So they took him, and I just kind of had to stay in the room, and my legs were so numb for hours that I didn't even get to be wheeled all over to him until about 5. And even then I had to sit in the wheelchair, so I could barely touch him. And this is why we didn't film any of this. Like, I think I filmed us, I filmed like us going over to the NICU, and then like a little bit of Jackson, but not much after that, and I haven't filmed it all today. But yeah, so, and there was just a lot of unanswered questions. They didn't know what exactly was wrong, and that they told us that they would let us know. The doctor came in this morning and told us, the pediatrician came in this morning and told us that he has pneumonia, that his lungs and his kidneys weren't working super well. She kind of explained his lungs as like a balloon, and when you try to like inflate a balloon, initially it's really hard to get that initial breath in, but once you do, it's really easy to keep blowing it up. But he was still at the beginning stages, so we didn't like that, and she said we're looking at a minimum of 2 weeks with stuff like this, and I just lost it. She did say, though, this is good news, she did say that he's gonna be totally fine after this. This is all just kind of newborn stuff, like initial things, but after it's taken care of, it's taken care of. And so he'll be a completely healthy baby once it's all resolved after these 2 weeks in the NICU. But it's a matter of us going home without him for a long time. We went into the nursery to see him, and because he's so sick, anytime he's even awake, he gets really agitated. And so they have him under sedation for the most part, and we're not even allowed to touch him, because if we wake up, he'll be in a lot of pain and he'll start screaming, and then once that happens, his levels all kind of spike and it's not good. And so we're not allowed to touch him or aggravate him at all, and it's just really, and it's just awful. But some good news, the doctor came in just a few hours ago and said his kidneys are looking a lot better. He wasn't peeing at all, and now he is. They're bringing down his oxygen level, so he's doing better at doing oxygen on his own. And it's just more of a matter of just resolving a few things. And then we went into the NICU to see him just as they were changing his IV. And so they were about to wrap him up, and then she said, well, he's already up and kind of aggravated. Do you want to just hold him for a while? So I got to hold him for like half an hour, and it was just so freaking amazing. And it's been a really, really rough and emotional past couple of days, and so we tried to film as much as we possibly could, but hopefully you understand that it was just so emotional, and you just don't think when all of this is happening, oh, I should get out and film this. You just, when we go to the nursery, we want to be there and with him and hold him. You know, we've taken a bunch of pictures, and I'll probably include some pictures in the video just to give you an idea. And I don't want to like self-promote, but I did post most of this, not like the entire birth story, but I did post most of this on Instagram. So if you want to keep updated on how he's doing, I'm posting it on Instagram at least once a day. I posted twice today because I got to hold him today. But yeah, we are so in love with him. He's so handsome. He came out weighing 7 pounds 15 ounces, and he's 20 inches long. He's just the cutest little thing. He opened his eyes right away at me and just looked at me, and we're so in love with him, and it kills me that I can't just have him here. But that's what's going on with Jackson, and that's his whole birth story. I really wish I had filmed more, because I really, if anything, just wanted it for my references. So we did our best to film everything that we could. So hopefully those clips filled in a little bit, but I really do apologize for not doing a better job. It wasn't my priority. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. There's been so much support on Instagram since I, told you guys this, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of comments about how you guys will pray for us or whatever, because you guys are so amazing, and I feel so blessed to have a support group behind me, especially just in times of this. Like, hearing people say you're in our thoughts or you're in our prayers does more than I can like possibly tell you. It might seem like it's just a minuscule comment that doesn't mean anything, but it means so much to us when that's all we can hold on to is your hopes and your thoughts and your prayers. And so it just means a lot to have a support system at all, let alone on YouTube, and we're just so grateful. And so I just wanted to say thank you to you guys, and thanks for watching and like listening to his story. We'll keep you guys updated either via Instagram, and we're gonna try and film everything that we can. It's just gonna be really complicated coming and going from the nursery, but we're gonna do everything that we can, and I'm gonna make a video the day that he gets to come home, because that's gonna be super exciting. So, but yeah, that's what's going on. Our little boy is here, and we'll keep you updated.